Yeah, we firmly believe it is the new model. And it's not necessarily new, it's been going on for a while, but we really believe it's the model. If you look at big pharma, they're reducing their spending in R&D and they are looking to the outside more. It's very difficult to scale R&D. It's more of an art than a science. So you have to invest your money not just internally but externally. And various larger companies have tried different ways to do this, breaking down their R&D into smaller units and sending their scientists different ways. But we firmly believe it's the model. And if you look at successful companies in the industry, look at Genentech's portfolio before they were the acquisition by Roche. It was also a great mixture of internally developed products as well as licensed. Rituxan came from the outside, Herceptin was internal. So for us as well, we believe that this is the model, and we want to see a very vibrant, creative, well-funded biotechnology community. We hope these companies will continue to grow, and ultimately, if they want to become commercial entities, become those, and we're willing to help do deal structures that will get them there. But we believe having that science with a small group of people who are focused every day on enhancing the value of their company by advancing their science and their compounds is really going to be a major source of new products for the industry, and we're going to participate in that. Yeah, well, if you notice, there's only one L in Celgene, and the reason for that is that we were spun out of Celanese, the chemical company, in the early 80s, and Celanese was C-E-L-A-N-E-S-E, I believe. So it was the cell from Celanese and the gene because we were a biotech company in the 80s. Our heritage was small molecules and not biologics, but biologics is certainly an area that we want to enter, and we have through some of our partnerships. But no, the origins were really chiral chemistry coming out of Celanese. Yeah, it's a very good point, and and we've been there. As I said, back in 2005, we were trying to determine whether or not we commercialized Revlimid outside of the United States on our own, and we had a great deal on the table, but we decided to invest the money, and fortunately, we had a marketed product, so we could invest the money, and we went alone. But it was that trade-off, and we actually did the analysis at the time of how much we had to underperform the partner in terms of revenue generation to offset just getting a royalty versus owning all the revenue from the company, from the product. And we did those trade-offs, and we decided, all right, we can underperform at that level and still make going alone a viable financial proposition. For our partners, it is really working with them to try to understand their aspirations within the constructs of their own financing and help them achieve those aspirations. So for Acceleron, for instance, this was their first partnering deal. There was a $40 million up front, and I think that not only helped fund them for a while longer, but it gave their investors confidence, and they were willing to put in more money, and it allowed them to set the standard for their next deal. So it's energizing the company through the ability to raise more money, but it's also ensuring that we really are a collaborative partner and that both companies are learning from each other so that the project teams that we have with Acceleron truly are collaborative. And their people do not feel that they gave the molecule away, and they'll hear about it when the NDA is submitted and approved, but they really are part of the process and able to access more resources, not just financially, but from a human resource standpoint, than they could have alone. So in the Acceleron collaboration, that has really energized them. Same thing with Globimune. We have some folks in our regulatory department who were at the FDA years ago looking at cell therapies and therapeutic vaccines. So we've been able to bring an area of expertise that Globimune didn't have to the table. And that's helped both companies realize that we're both benefiting. So it's really understanding the resources, the expertise within the partner company, and how we're going to share and both benefit so that their folks are energized and they're not just relying on us to move the product forward. We're not seeing any value accruing. But it's a very important aspect to us to ensure that both companies are benefiting and the therapeutic is being developed effectively.
Dr. Rogan, your assistant. For small companies in this room, how would you explain to them the distinguishing between coming to a company of your size versus a big pharma in order to get both your attention and then to make a deal?
Yeah, great question. And I was going to mention that in the presentation. I think we are in the ideal spot to be the partner of choice because of our size. Now we have, excuse me, we have all the financial resources to be able to develop compounds with our partner. We now have the worldwide infrastructure. But as you saw, we have 5 marketed products. We need many more. A product that we bring in from the outside is not going to get lost in the pipeline. And all of our partners have seen that. Istodax generates less than $10 million of sales right now, but it's a very important product in our pipeline, and we continue to advance it. So we believe that we're in that ideal spot, and we are open for any discussions. When companies contact us, our business development department responds. We take meetings. We make sure that we're communicative. We make sure that the partner understands what our position is on their technology, on their molecules, and we use all of those initial introduction opportunities as ways to build longer-term relationships, whether we're going to do something now or later. So we hope that we are much more accessible than larger companies, and that as we move forward with collaborations, the partners realize that we are serious about developing external compounds, and they're not things that we'll just take a look at and maybe cast off years later. And hopefully we retain that as we grow. You know, we've talked about diversifying just within various therapeutic areas, and we want to stick to what we know best. I think the one gray area for pharmaceutical companies is the role of diagnostics. And do we need to own those diagnostics that may be appropriate for our therapeutics, or can we partner? And we're a great example of that because our approval for Revlimid in myelodysplastic syndrome is for a genetic subtype called 5q deletion. And those patients need to have that diagnostic test to determine what their phenotype is, and then they're given the drug. And it's only for that subtype. People who do not have that deletion, it's not in the label. So we've toyed with the idea of what is our role with diagnostics, and for right now, we've come to the conclusion that as long as we partner and the diagnostic is available, we share our intellectual property and know-how to ensure the diagnostic is available, that's sufficient. But the medical device piece for a company our size, that's a stretch. But having come from Abbott Laboratories, it's the first entry into the industry, diversification is also a great source of strength. But for us, we'll stick to therapeutics and those therapeutics that really meet those unmet medical needs. Yeah, some of us remember the days of Shaman Pharmaceuticals. That was one of the first in the area. We're aware of the category. We haven't singled it out as a category that we're not necessarily pursuing specifically, but we'd be very happy to look at compounds that come from those origins. For us, it's about the clinical data, and in this case, the intellectual property and the ability to manufacture. But we're really very agnostic to therapeutic modality or types of molecules. It's about the data, and if there are things that you think we should be taking a look at, we'd be more than happy to.
It's almost 2 o'clock, so we have to stop this component of the program here. And you have a little time to prepare yourselves for the breakout sessions. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Thank you.